If you're brand new to the Pokemon trading card game, or you're like me and took a 20-year hiatus, then coming into the game or learning to play might be a little bit intimidating, but I got you covered. Hey everybody, Nick from 9Card TCG, and today we're going to learn how to play the Pokemon trading card game here in 2022. This is going to be a multi-part series. We're going to talk today about what you need to play, the different kinds of cards that you can find in the game, the basic setup and rules, and then in future videos we'll talk about some advanced tips, tricks, and strategies, deck building, what decks are popular, how to get some information, where to buy product, all that kind of stuff in future videos. So if you haven't already, which if you're brand new to the game, then you probably haven't, but hit the subscribe button, bell notification so you never miss another video, leave a like and a comment. It all tells YouTube this is a good video and that other people should watch it. My goal is to help spread the game and get as many people as possible to play the Pokemon trading card game, because honestly, it is a ton of fun once you know what to do with those shiny pieces of cardboard that you may have been collecting or eyeing for a while now. All of the rules for the Pokemon trading card game, whether you're playing on the online app, which is where we're going to do our demos today, or you're playing in person, are the same. So you don't have to worry about learning different rules for the online card game versus the actual physical card game. They are identical. So that's really cool, something that other card games don't always have, but Pokemon does. If you want to play Pokemon Trading Card online, I have a link in the video description to Pokemon Trading Card Game Online. That's the online app. We usually just call it PTCGO. Real quick, eventually, and we do not know when, Pokemon Trading Card Game Online will be taken out of service and replaced with Pokemon Trading Card Game Live. One thing to note is that any cards that you have, especially if you are brand new and starting with the standard format, any cards you have on the PTCGO app will transfer to PTCGL, providing you use the same login and all that information. So important distinction, but we'll get there as we get more information about Live. For now, let's hop over to PTCGO. So here we are in the Pokemon Trading Card Game Online app, and we're going to be talking about the three major card types and also the subtypes. So let's start with the Pokemon as our first major category. The first kind of Pokemon we have is what are called basic Pokemon. These are the Pokemon that you're going to be playing to actually do battle and evolve. Basic Pokemon, if you're not familiar with the franchise, are the first line of evolutions in a Pokemon like evolution line, I guess. So for example, Houndour here is a basic Pokemon. It has 60 HP. You can see that says HP there. That stands for hit points. The HP is how much damage a Pokemon can take before it's defeated or knocked out in battle. Every Pokemon is assigned a type. In the Pokemon video game and anime, all that kind of stuff, Pokemon have types that are either strong against or weak to other types. And we know that this type right here is weak to this type on the bottom left. So this is what we call dark type, and then this is weak to grass type. Sometimes Pokemon have resistances, meaning they take less damage from other types. This one does not. Sometimes Pokemon can have monikers or tags, and you see that here with the single strike logo. Not every card will have this, but cards that do generally interact with other cards with the same logo. There's a few different logos at the moment: single strike, rapid strike, and fusion strike. So keep that in mind when you're playing the game. If you see those markers, the deck is probably a themed deck of some kind where they use those. Now, if you're not familiar with Pokemon, the whole kind of deal is to collect and capture Pokemon, and then they do battle. So how do they battle here in the Pokemon trading card game? Well, they have attacks. You can see right here in the middle, it has the attack Bite, which does 20 damage to your opponent's Pokemon. How do we actually do the attacks? Well, we have to worry about something called energy, and we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. There's a little bit more to the anatomy of a Pokemon card. We have things like what set this is from. So the symbol on the bottom left tells us if we want to get this card, what set can we buy to get it. We also have some information about the card, what number card in a set it is. So this is card number 95 out of 163. And then we also have the rarity. Circles are commons, diamonds are uncommons, stars are rares, and then we have ultra and super rares as well, which are denoted by different colored stars. Down here we have some flavor text. It just tells you a little bit more about the Pokemon and the Pokemon world. We have some stats about the Pokemon, what number it is in the Pokedex, which is like the encyclopedia of Pokemon. So a little bit of height and weight statistics, not really important to the gameplay at all, just kind of more for you to feel connected to the Pokemon and get an idea for how big these things can be. We also have one more really important piece of information on our basic Pokemon here, is that this letter E on the bottom left is what's called a regulation mark. It tells us if we are able to play this Pokemon card in competitive tournaments. Some Pokemon tournaments require you to have cards from special or certain sets, and we'll talk about this in future videos, but just to give you an idea of what it is and so you don't think I missed something. Basic Pokemon are the only ones you can play immediately onto the field so that you can do battle, so we'll keep that in mind for later. Houndoom here is the evolved form of Houndour. If you're not familiar with Pokemon evolutions, maybe you came back from a really long break, or you're brand new to Pokemon and you're like, I don't really know these Pokemon, don't worry. The card does a really good job of telling you what Pokemon they evolved from. So under the name Houndoom, it tells you that it evolves from Houndour, and it even has a little picture of the Pokemon so you can kind of match it up just in case you're still not sure or familiar. Evolved Pokemon usually have more HP, and they generally retain the same type, although there are some examples where Pokemon change types, but we don't have to worry about that right now. It still has the single strike mark, and it has a really cool picture. Houndoom is a really awesome Pokemon. Pokemon can have, in addition to attacks like Darkness Fang here, they can have abilities, and those abilities are really, they can be really good, sometimes they're terrible, but they can be really good and help you play the game and do the things that your deck wants to do, either easier or faster. For the actual ability, it doesn't matter what it says right now, but just know that abilities can happen once per turn. They can also happen from the time you play the card, so just read the ability carefully to know when it happens, how often you can do it, and what it does. All the other information here is the same. Now, we do have additional basic Pokemon. These are called Pokemon V. They're evolved versions of Pokemon, but they count as basic Pokemon as far as the game is concerned. We know it's a basic Pokemon because in the top left, it still says basic. So the Pokemon V generally have a lot more health than other types of basic Pokemon, and their attacks generally do a lot more damage. What is the trade-off for this? Well, they have what's called a rule box, and rule boxes are generally found on the bottom right-hand corner where the flavor text of other cards would be. This rule box says that when it's knocked out, your opponent takes 2 prize cards. What does that mean? We'll worry about prize cards later, but just for now, know that Pokemon V have rule boxes. Some Pokemon V can evolve into one of 2 different things. One of them is Pokemon VMax. You see right here it says VMax, and that it evolves from Single Strike Urshifu V, which is the name of the previous card I showed. Pokemon VMax have a ton of health, 330 is enormous, and they do a ton of damage with their attacks. They also have a slightly different rule box that says Pokemon VMax, when they get knocked out, your opponent takes 3 prize cards. And again, don't worry about the prize cards just yet, we'll get to that. The other type of Pokemon V evolution are called Pokemon VStar, and these are brand new cards. Actually, at the time of this recording, there's only 2 that are out, but when our next set, Brilliant Stars, releases on February 25th, we're going to have a few more V-Star Pokemon, and these are really, really cool. You can see on the bottom right, they have a V-Star rule, which when it's knocked out, your opponent takes 2 prize cards. They evolve from Pokemon V, just like Pokemon VMax would evolve from Pokemon V. Obviously, you cannot evolve a Pokemon V-Star into a VMax, because they both evolve from the same Pokemon. Pokemon V-Star are very, very interesting because they have a little bit more health than Pokemon V, but they also have V-Star powers. V-Star powers are incredibly useful attacks or abilities, but you can only use a single V-Star power in the entire game. So If you use this Crystal Star V power, you can't use another one or even a different VStar power for the rest of the game. So knowing when and which one to use is very important. For the most part, Pokemon V, VStar, VMax, they all retain the same information. They have the health, attacks, name, and they also have any weaknesses, resistances, regulation marks, set numbers, and set symbols, and they also have a retreat cost that we haven't talked about just yet. The last type of Pokemon is what's called Pokemon VUnion. You can see here that there are 4 cards that are grayed out, and Pokemon VUnion are really different. You need all 4 of those Pokemon VUnion pieces in the discard pile so that you can play the one Pokemon VUnion card. So those cards kind of all come together to make one really big Pokemon. And they have their own Pokemon VUnion rule, which when this Pokemon is knocked out, your opponent takes 3 prizes. You're also only allowed to play one Pokemon VUnion of that name in the entire game. There are currently 3 Pokemon VUnions, so if you play this Greninja VUnion and it gets knocked out, you cannot play another Greninja VUnion for the rest of the game. You could play a different VUnion, but you probably don't want to. So that's all the different types of Pokemon. I know it kind of sounds like a lot, but for the most part, you're going to be dealing with these what we call single prize Pokemon. They do not have a rule box, they have flavor text instead. Pokemon V, VMaxes, and VStars. Pokemon V, of course, can have abilities like you see on this one right here. The next major type of card are called trainer cards. The first kind of trainer card is called an item card, and it says so on the top right. You can play any number of items you want during your turn, and it actually tells you that on the bottom right of a card. Something Pokemon does really well is it explains all of the rules for how cards are played directly on the card. So if you don't remember that you can play as many items as you want during your turn, the card tells you exactly that. And you basically just follow the instructions on the card, you put it onto the field, you do what it says, and then you move that card to the discard pile. We're going to talk about the different zones. Sometimes they'll tell you to do things to the active zone or bench and discard pile. We're going to talk all about that when we talk about prizes in just a couple minutes. Sometimes items have a cost associated with them. You have to discard or get rid of something or do a thing in order to activate the effect of this card. This one says that you have to discard 1 card from your hand in order to play it, but if you do, you could search your deck for any basic Pokemon you want and then put it into your hand. Remember, basic Pokemon can be single prize basics, and they can also be these bigger basic Pokemon Vs. The next kind of trainer are called stadium cards, and stadiums are really interesting. You're only allowed to play 1 stadium per turn, but when you do play, it stays on the field until a new stadium is played or another card or effect says to discard it or get rid of it. So these stadiums apply to both players. So in this case, it says that any Pokemon with a rule box are Pokemon V, VMax, VStars. They have no abilities. So let's think about that for a second. That does apply to both you and your opponent. Houndoom here is a single prize Pokemon. It does not have a rule box. So Path to the Peak, the stadium card we just showed, does not affect Houndoom. We can still use Houndoom's ability during our turn if we want. However, Crobat here, Crobat V, does have a rule box. You can see it says V Rule, and its ability would be stopped by Path to the Peak. So if we play Crobat, we would not be able to use its ability while Path to the Peak is in effect. Jumping back to items real quick, I don't know why they put it down there, so I forgot about it, but a different kind of item are Pokemon tools. You can play these from your hand as many times as you want during your turn. However, when you play it, it doesn't go immediately to the discard pile. It actually stays attached to a specific Pokemon. So I would take this air balloon and attach it directly to, say, this Crobat V. Then the effects of the tool apply to Crobat V as long as the tool is in effect. Each Pokemon can only have 1 tool attached to it, and it says so right under the card's artwork, Pokemon tool, and it tells you to attach it to a Pokemon that doesn't have a tool attached to it already. There are cards that have abilities or effect that let you attach multiple tools, but those are exceptions, not the rule. The last kind of trainer are supporter cards. Supporters are very, very powerful, and they're so powerful that you can only play 1 per turn. It tells you that on the bottom right hand corner. Now you can only play one supporter during your turn. I cannot play boss's orders and then play a supporter of a different name. It is one single supporter for the turn. You would play a supporter just like you would an item. You would play it from your hand, do the effects, and then move it to the discard pile, and then you would continue your turn however you wanted. The last major card type is energies, and energies come in two types. You have your basic energies. It is just a plain card with the symbol on it, and then you have special energies, which are energy cards with text associated with them. You also know it's a special energy because it tells you in the top right hand, special energy. The main function of energies are to power up your Pokemon for attacks. You mentioned that at the beginning of the video when we said if we want to use the bite attack, we need energies in order to do it. So how do we actually use bite? Well, we have to attach energies, and when I say attach, basically you just take an energy from your hand and put it underneath the Pokemon that you want to power up or charge. And once you have all of the energies that the card tells you, you're able to now use that attack. It's really as simple as just matching the symbols to what you see on the card. So in this case, this symbol right here, the white background with the black star, that just means any energy you want. We call this a colorless energy. You can take literally any energy that there is in the game, attach it to this Houndour, and you will be able to use bite. Something like Houndoom's Darkness Fang, on the other hand, it does a little bit more damage and it has higher energy requirements. Now you need two energies because there are two symbols. One of them is that colorless we saw just a moment ago, but the other specifically says this kind of energy. This is called a dark energy, and there's a bunch. There's fire, water, electric, metal, and a few others. But all you have to know is match the symbol to what you see on the card. So we need one energy that looks like this. Well, that's this kind of energy, and there are others that fulfill this requirement too. If you read the card, something like this single strike energy over here does fulfill the requirement if you read the card. Now, once we get two energies, one dark type and then one of any other kind, we can now go ahead and use Darkness Fang. The energies stay on the Pokemon even after you attack unless the card tells you otherwise. They also stay on the card for as long as the Pokemon's in play, again, unless some other card or effect tells you to get rid of them for some reason. An example of that would be Single Strike Urshifu VMax's Gmax 1 Blow attack. It specifically tells you to discard all energy attached to this Pokemon in order to use this attack. So it has a very high attack cost of 3 fighting energies. These fist symbols represent fighting energies, and then a fourth one of any kind you want. So in order to use Gmax 1 Blow, we have to discard all 4 energies attached to this Pokemon, and then we can use the attacker. So kind of a high energy cost, so knowing how much energy your Pokemon take to attack and what their effects are is very, very important for the game. There are cards and abilities and effects that let you search your deck or discard pile for energies and attach them to Pokemon. Those are really important, and it's called energy acceleration. They help a lot of decks function at a higher level and make them really competitive. So decks that can accelerate energy or decks that just have naturally very low attack costs generally are better decks, but we'll talk about that more in the future. For now, we're going to hop over to the desktop so I can show you how to set up the game and some of the basic rules. So what do we need to start playing the game? Well, we need a deck, and whether you're playing online or in person, you need a 60 card deck. You also want to have your cards covered in a sleeve. Not only does it help protect the cards, but it makes them much easier to shuffle and prevents things like marking the cards so you can't cheat. You also are going to need some type of dice or counters, some way of knowing how much damage your Pokemon has taken over the course of the game. Buying certain products, and again we'll talk about this later, come with dice, and you can also just buy them online for pretty cheap. The last thing you probably want is a deck box, anything that you can store and carry your cards around so that they don't get messed up in your book bag. You definitely don't want to do what I did when I was a kid and wrap them in a rubber band and put them in a Ziploc bag, and then it's like, oh yeah, I'm ready to play. Like, no, don't do that to your cards. Please don't. Oh God, please don't. So In order to start the game, you're going to shuffle your deck. Now, I'm demonstrating, so I'm not going to shuffle because this is set up in a very specific way. And you would shuffle the cards, okay? So shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Now we're going to draw 7 cards from the top of the deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We talked before about having a basic Pokemon. I need in my hand, these cards become my hand, I need at least 1 basic Pokemon. So let's look at this hand, and oh look, I have 2 basic Pokemon. I have the Urshifu and the Houndour. So now I can put these Pokemon into play. There are 2 zones where Pokemon can go. You have the active zone, and then you have the bench. So I'm going to put a Pokemon face down into the active spot, and then I can put as many Pokemon as I want, up to 5, onto my bench. Now, since I have a Pokemon in the active spot, it's time to set up our prizes. You are going to take the top 6 cards without looking and put them off to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now that I have those off to the side, I'm ready to flip over my cards, assuming my opponent has done the same. There's this rule called Mulligan, where if you do not have a basic Pokemon in your hand to start the game, you show your opponent your hand, shuffle your hand back into your deck, draw a fresh 7 new cards, and repeat that process until you have a basic Pokemon. Your opponent is going to be able to draw a card for each time you have to mulligan, so that's a little bit annoying, and they get to see your hand, so they get to see what you're playing. So a lot of reasons to not mulligan, but it's luck of the draw. You don't always get to control it. Why do we have 6 prizes? Well, the main reason that is in traditional Pokemon battles in the video game or the anime, whatever, trainers, that's what we are Pokemon trainers, they have a team of 6. And obviously we have way more Pokemon than 6 in our deck. We have a lot more, usually in the realm of 15 to 20 Pokemon in your deck. So our prizes represent our team of 6, and as Pokemon do battle and they get knocked out, you or your opponent will be taking these prize cards to show that Pokemon has been defeated. The name of the game is to take all of your prizes. The person who takes all 6 prizes first win the game. The other 2 ways of winning are that if you have no Pokemon in play, or you have no more cards to draw from the top of your deck at the beginning of your turn. This is called a deck out. So those are 3 win conditions. Take all 6 prizes, your opponent has no Pokemon in play, or they at the start of their turn, they cannot draw a card, they lose. So me and my opponent have set up, so we go ahead and flip over our cards. Now it's time to start actually playing. Each player is going to draw a card to start off their turn. So I draw a card, and now I want to attach an energy because I need to start attacking. So I'm going to take this energy card from my hand, and I'm going to put it right underneath the Pokemon that I want to start powering up. You're only allowed to play 1 energy card from your hand during your turn. So I can't play another energy if I had one in this turn. I also, since I'm going first, it's the very first turn of the game, I cannot play any supporters and I cannot attack. Even if I meet the energy requirements for the attack, the person who goes first can't play a supporter and can't attack. So since I'm going first, I'm just going to continue to play my hand, and I'm going to play this Quick Ball, which forces me to discard a card from my hand in order to use it, and now I get to search my deck for a basic Pokemon. So I grab this one and I put it into my hand. I would then shuffle the deck and now put it back down. These now go into the discard pile, which is placed right underneath your deck. Now I can choose to play this Pokemon onto the bench if I want, and then attach this tool to my Pokemon. Now, let's pretend, I'm just going to search for something because I want to demonstrate something. Let's search for this. Let's say I had these cards in my hand. Houndoom evolves from Houndour. So, because I have this in my hand, I should just be able to... Nope. You cannot evolve Pokemon the first turn it's played. Because it's the first turn these Houndours were played, I can't evolve either one of them, and so I have nothing else to do. I can't evolve, I can't play my supporter, and I can't attack. So now my turn is over, and I would end my turn by saying that I end my turn, or more commonly saying, pass. Now my opponent goes, they would put down their Pokemon, they would play their items and their supporter, they're able to attack because it's no longer the first turn of the game, and then when it's my turn, I start my turn by drawing a card. Now I am able to evolve this Pokemon if I choose and go ahead and play a supporter. So I play my supporter and I do its effects. Now I can go ahead and look, I get another Houndoom, so I can evolve my Houndour. I can play a stadium. If my opponent had a stadium in play, me playing this stadium would get rid of theirs. Just like if my opponent plays a stadium during their turn, my stadium goes in the discard pile. If I want, I can go ahead and use this stadium's effect, which I will do. And from here, now I can start to do what my deck wants to do. I used Houndoom's ability to search my deck for energies. We don't have to talk about the actual strategy and what I'm doing. We'll talk about that in a future video. But it lets me search my deck for energies. Anytime you search your deck, you do have to shuffle, but I'm keeping this tutorial kind of... well, we'll just do it just so we build good habits, right? I want to show you the right way. And now it's time to attack. So I shuffled up my deck. I played my supporter for the turn. I have no more Pokemon to evolve. I could play some items if I want to, but I don't. So I'm ready to attack. Usually what people do, by the way, when it comes to abilities, let's say that I use these abilities to keep track. I will either put like a coin on them to show that I use the abilities. People have like a little ability used markers that they'll put, or you could just kind of turn them to the side and say, okay, I use the ability. I use this for the turn. This way it's easy to keep track of what I use. Sometimes when there's a lot of abilities and a lot of things happening, it's hard to remember what you did or what you haven't done yet. So there we go. That's how I'm going to remember what I've done. Now it's time to attack. I have to declare which attack I'm going to use so my opponent knows what's happening. In this case, I'm going to use the Impact Blow attack because this has 2 fighting and 1 colorless as the requirement. And I have 3 energies, and they provide 2 fighting and a 3rd fighting or a dark, whatever I choose to be. So I meet the requirements to attack, so I would say, okay, I'm going to use Impact Blow for however much damage it does. Attacks always hit your opponent's active Pokemon unless the card says otherwise. Some cards will say that you hit your opponent's bench. Sometimes it'll say that you hit the active and do a little bit of damage to the bench. You just read the card's effect and do what it says. If my opponent is weak to my typing, which in this case is fighting, my attack damage is doubled. So if I'm doing 180 damage with Impact Blow, that attack is doubled, and now I'm doing 360 damage for this turn. So paying attention to weakness and resistance is very, very important because it's going to matter a lot for taking knockouts on your opponent's Pokemon. Generally, we can assume that my opponent's Pokemon is going to be a Pokemon V. Maybe it's a single prizer, but we'll call it a Pokemon V. And now, because of the Pokemon V rule, when I knock out their Pokemon, I take 2 prizes. So I get to choose any 2 I want, and without looking at them, I put them into my hand. And now I can look at them. I can't look to see what the prizes are and choose which one I want. I have to grab them face down and put them into my hand. Once I declare my attack and the attack's effects happen, now the turn is over. So knowing when to attack is really important. I wouldn't want to attack before playing an energy card, for example, unless I had a reason not to. But generally, you want to do everything in your turn before you attack, because like I said, and I can't stress this enough, attacking is the last step of the turn. So now my opponent goes, let's pretend they knock out this Pokemon. This and everything attached to it all goes into the discard pile. Now I have to choose a new Pokemon to go into the active before I start my turn. And I'm going to choose this guy. It doesn't matter because they're both the same. So now I would be able to draw a card and start playing the way I want. And I actually have a pretty good setup here. I would be able to play this item card, which I would discard 2 cards in order to use. Search my deck for any Pokemon I want. In this case, we're going to search for, we'll search for you, and we'll put it into our hand. We have to show it. Anytime you're searching for a specific type of card, you have to show what the card is, but the card will tell you if you need to reveal it or not. This all goes into the discard pile, and now I can go ahead and play this card. From here, I can attach my 1 energy for the turn, and then I can use Houndoom's ability to search my deck for another energy. And I do exactly, well, that's not the energy I wanted, this is the energy. And there we go. Now I would shuffle, okay, I shuffled my deck. That's not a sufficient shuffle, but fine. And here I could start playing item cards. We haven't talked yet about how to get Pokemon out of the active spot. And we have to do what's called retreating or switching. We're going to hop back over to PTCGO so you can see it a little bit clearer so we can talk about retreat costs. We have this Houndoom in the active spot, and you can see it has a retreat cost of 2. That 2 is represented by the number of energies that I have to have attached to the Pokemon so I can discard them. So I can't retreat this Houndoom without having 2 energies attached to it. I need an item card or a tool to allow me to switch my cards. And we do have cards like that called Switch. It lets you move a Pokemon from your bench to the active. I get to choose which one, so I'll choose this, and it lets me literally just switch to the bench. Any damage on this Pokemon, any energies, any items, any whatever, anything attached to it when it goes from the active to the bench remains that way. So if I had 90 damage on this Houndoom, that damage stays. Just like if I had any energies attached to it, those energies would stay. Switch cards are really important, but we'll talk about those later. If I needed to manually retreat, I have to have 2 energies, and remember, it's colorless energy, so it can be anything you want, but I would have to discard those energies from that Pokemon in order to switch. You can only do this once per turn unless you play an item card such as Switch, Escape Rope, some other card that gives the effect of moving your Pokemon. But if I'm going to discard energies, I can only do that once. We call that manual retreat. But now that this Pokemon's in the active, I'm able to attack assuming I meet the energy requirements, which I do because of my special energies. Pokemon do not have summoning sickness like in some games. Some games, when you play a Pokemon, it can attack that turn. Pokemon does not have that. You can attack with the Pokemon the second you put it into play, as soon as you meet the energy requirements. So now I would be able to go ahead and attack. I would declare my attack and say which one I want to use because this Pokemon has 2. So I use the attack, and let's say I knock out a single prize Pokemon, I would get 1 prize. This is a good time to talk about status conditions. Status conditions are really annoying. There are 5 status conditions. There is burn, poison, paralysis, sleep, confusion. We'll talk about each one and what they do. So in between turns, after I attack and it's my opponent's turn, there's an in-between phase called Pokemon Checkup, and that's where all status condition stuff happens. So for example, if my Pokemon was poisoned, noted by this marker, in between each turn I would take 10 damage. If I was burned, as noted by this counter, in between each turn I would flip a coin. If heads, then I'm cured of burn and I don't take the damage. If tails, the burn remains and I take 20 damage. This happens in between each player's turn. So when I go from my turn to my opponent's and from my opponent's back to mine. When a Pokemon is paralyzed, you turn it on its side to show that it's paralyzed. When the Pokemon is paralyzed during that turn, it can't attack or manually retreat. You can, however, still play cards like Switch to move the Pokemon, but you can't discard energies to move it. When a Pokemon is asleep, you turn it the other way. It doesn't really matter which way you turn it, as long as you know that it's asleep versus paralyzed. However, asleep is just like being paralyzed. You can't attack or manually retreat. However, during Pokemon checkup, you flip a coin. If heads, you wake up from being asleep. If tails, you stay asleep. The last one is confusion, and confusion is actually kind of annoying. You show that your Pokemon's confused by turning it upside down, and when you declare an attack, you flip a coin. If heads, the attack happens, nothing else happens. However, if you flip tails, the attack doesn't happen, and you take 30 damage. You flip a coin in between for confusion, just like you would anything else. So, really, status conditions can be really annoying. However, there are 3 ways in order to deal with a status condition. The first is by evolving a Pokemon. If my Pokemon is, say, poisoned, when I evolve it, the second I evolve it, the poison or any other status condition goes away. Another way of dealing with, say, poison, we're just going to use poison, is I move it to the bench, whether I play a switch or I manually retreat. When a Pokemon goes to the bench, I get rid of its status condition. Any damage associated with it stays, but the status condition itself goes away. You can't have a status condition on the bench, so that kind of helps. The last way is by playing a card or an effect that gets rid of status conditions. Some say to get rid of all, some say get rid of specific ones. So do keep in mind of what the card effect is when dealing with status conditions. So there you have it. That's how you play the Pokemon trading card game. I know it seems like a lot of stuff, but we're going really slow to explain everything, and half the video was just talking about the different cards. But the actual gameplay is, I promise, much easier. If you want to practice playing before you start playing other people, the Pokemon trading card game online has a great tutorial to take you through the steps of attaching energies, attacking, playing Pokemon and evolving them, all that kind of stuff. So I highly encourage you to go do it. But that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much. I hope you found this informative and enjoyable. If you did, let me know in the comments below by leaving a comment and hitting the like button especially. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.